Now the CNG shortage has come to the point that even Sindh is now facing 2 days of shutdown a week. Now thank God it's alternate days, so that gives commuters some time to actually go and fill up their tanks. But the issue here is that the government should have realized this a long time ago before they actually started shutting down CNG. Why did they let the public sector buses and the private sector buses shift to CNG without having some sort of a mechanism? At the same time, people must realize that while in Sindh the shutdown is 2 days and it does affect commuters, there's no denying the fact. But Punjab is really worse off. There the shutdown is 4 days, and sometimes even on the remaining 3 days, people complain that the gas pressure is so low that it's actually almost like having no gas at all. Now what the government could have done when they actually shifted to CNG about a few years ago is that they could have laid down a policy that certain vehicles will be allowed to convert to CNG and some won't. For example, if you ask me, it makes absolutely no sense for a guy in a Land Cruiser to drive up to a CNG pump and fill up his tanks. If he can afford a Land Cruiser, I think he can afford to drive on petrol. The government should have clamped down on that. Secondly, the government has come up with this theory that CNG in buses is not safe. The CNG is fine, it's the tanks, it's the cylinders they use which is not safe. The government once again could have taken a proactive approach. They could have come in early and said, look, we're going to regulate your conversion, we're going to give you the tanks, these are the tanks you need to use, so that these risks could have been avoided as well. Now, the commuters, they want cheap transport. CNG right now is the only option they have, so to deny them this option, I think, is wrong of the government. The other thing that people talk about is the effect CNG closure will have on saving gas. I don't think it's going to be a lot. Some government sources, some analysts say that CNG consumption is 11% of total gas consumption in the country. Let's assume it's 11%. Even that's not a lot. But I've also heard from some other sources that it's barely 5% of total consumption. Let's assume it's 10% and not 5%. If you shut down that for 2 days, it's not going to make a huge impact. What they need to control, to basically bring this issue under control, is industrial consumption. And that's industrial power consumption. Now there's a catch here. Why are industrialists so keen on generating their own power on gas and not getting it from WAPD or KSC? Because they get gas so cheap that it makes sense to them. Why does the government give them cheap gas? Give it at the regular price. Then we'll see how many industrialists want to come in and say, give us gas for our own in-house captive power generation. So I think that's what the government needs to do. 3 things. 1, increase the price of gas so that you actually make a profit on it. Sure, don't make it so much like you're doing on petrol, but make a profit on it, no subsidy. It's the second thing. Put in some regulatory authorities who are checking the quality of CNG tanks and make sure that CNG is installed only in vehicles that you assume a middle class or lower middle class person would be riding. There shouldn't be a CNG in an 18 or 19 lakh Civic. And the third thing that they need to do is to make sure that the industry gets enough gas to run it, the industry that's running on gas, not their power generation. Because for example, if you look at Punjab, the textile industry has virtually come to a standstill because of this gas issue. You need to do something here, otherwise I think the industry is going to be crippled. You'll save gas, but then what are you going to do with it if the industry is not running? Now the CNG converted buses, the transporters say that about 60% of buses have converted to CNG, and that's why they've gone on strike, because they say they simply cannot operate if they don't have CNG for 2 days a week. Now the transporters cannot go on indefinite strike because this is their livelihood. So somebody has to give, either the government or the transporters. I think the government is going to give because there are 3 factors here once again. 1, the government has the gas if they want to give it. 5 to 11% of total consumption is nothing. You can actually give it to them. The third factor here is public demand. You cannot keep public transport off the road, particularly when you know that there's always this issue of sometimes twin riding on bikes being banned in Karachi, and of course the fact that taxi drivers and rickshaw drivers then have a heyday if buses don't run. But the biggest factor, in my opinion, why the government will have to give, this is election year. They cannot afford to lose any more popularity. So I think this transporters are going to get their way and they're going to get their CNG.